this video, we'll see different kinds of soils and we'll study the differences. We'll also learn the names of the soils and something about the composition and their origin. Soils can be classified by the color or after the region where they are found. We can also learn some more about where can we find the most characteristic types of soils. Let's try to connect where the plant grows and what types of soils grows where. The soil composition of vineyards is very important if you want to plant grapevines. In general terms, the best soil for a vine plant to grow healthy and to produce good grapes is an area of very thin topsoil and a kind of subsoil that keeps the water, that retains the water and provides good drainage. This is the kind of better soil that we can find. There are various types of soils, but obviously some of them produce better wines than others. As I said before, soils can be named after the geographic area where they were first cultivated, or they can be named by the color. They can also be named after the most important or the better known component, such as clay or shingle. For example, clay soils or shingle soils. Shingle soils are basically formed by small or relatively medium-sized white stones. There are the most popular ones is terra rosa or Mediterranean soils, calcareous soils, and the white ones are shingle soils that can be found in the River Rhône in the south part or southeast part of France, and volcanic soils that can be found in the Canary Island. Mediterranean soils are characteristic because of the reddish color. The first thing that these soils the first thing that I want to mention is that these soils are not exclusively from the Mediterranean areas, but because the traditional wine-producing countries are close to the Mediterranean, that name stuck. The important thing about the red color of Mediterranean soils is that it is the oxidizing process what gives the soil its tile red color. Because Mediterranean or terra rosa soils are sedimentary soils. These soils have been formed after carbonates have been filtered out of the limestones. The breakdown that leaves behind is iron deposits that oxidizes. These iron deposits give the soils its typical earthy or rusty reddish color. You can find these types of soils in Argentina, Chile, California, South Africa, and the southern part of Australia. The name is stuck because it was this area. We'll see later on something more about that. Is the Mediterranean area. This slide is interesting because it's a characteristic Mediterranean soil, but in fact this picture has been taken from a Bordeaux vineyard. As I said before, the chemical content of red soils or terracotta soils is basically carbonates that they have been filtered out of limestone. and the result produces these iron deposits I mentioned before that oxidizes, and that gives the color, the reddish color. But as I said at the beginning of this slide, this photograph is taken in the Bordeaux area, and the Bordeaux area is pretty close to the Atlantic Ocean. Also, in this slide, see the contrast between the dark bluish color of the grapes and the reddish color of the soil. Again, this is a picture taken in a Bordeaux vineyard. So, a bit more on red soils. Sometimes they are much more orange than reddish. This is another shade of clay, or tile orange, reddish color. The photo is taken from a vineyard at the Ribera de Duero, DO in Spain. Let's have a look about at the similar vineyard in winter, where you can see the almost brown, reddish brown color. And let's have another look at a very typical white soil or shingle soil. As I said before, shingle soils are made up of white stones. Shingle soils are calcareous soils. That is, they have a lot of calcium. Because this type of soil is made of layered stones, they let the water through the vines, and the stones keep the sun warm during daytime, but these stones relish the warm during the night. It's the type of soil that can be found in less warm places in Europe. The characteristic wines produced in this type of soil are, for example, the Côte d'Iron DO. Now let's turn into one of the best types of wine soils. This type of wine soil is black. This type of soil can also be called volcanic soil, because lava is the origin of this kind of soil. The picture is a photograph taken in the Spanish Canary Island. It shows at the back a volcano landscape. And the next slide, this one, you can see the terrace system of having one vine only plant growing alone, and keep it protected from the heavy winds by a circular stone wall. This is again a picture taken in the Canary Island. The reference in this case are only the course book. And thanks again for watching, and see you in the next slide.